So we're going to talk a little bit about it. But Joe, what would you think is the biggest mistake that a foreign investor can make? I have my stories, of course, working with Latin Americans, especially with Mexicans coming into the US. But I'd like to know your perspective.
Well, that's a very good question. And I would say that it's the response is not just for Latin American investors. It's Canadians that neighbor the US that speak English. Mm-hmm. So you would think that maybe it's a little bit more challenging for foreigners that come from a country that English is not their first language.
Yes.
Right? But it's equally as challenging for a Canadian who comes to the US. The culture is very similar, and you would think that they can assimilate into the business environment very easy. But I'll tell you, probably the biggest mistake is thinking that you've got to do it on your own. Okay. And that you've got to try and figure it out on your own. Mm-hmm. I, unfortunately, when I first came to the US, I felt like I had really no options. I had no choice. And I really you're navigating unchartered territory. Yes. Right? Mm-hmm. And I think what played in my favor was being so young, I was naive.
Yes. I know that feeling.
I mean, knowing what I know now and looking back on it, I think to myself, oh my gosh, like the things that I did, the risks that I took.
Yes.
It's amazing. So that can work in your favor, but that can also work against you.
It costs you a lot of money and a lot of time, a lot of effort, tears.
Oh gosh. And you got to remember, I mean, now this is making me feel really old. But when I first came to the US, internet was like on the verge.
That's what I was going to say, because
we had some challenging times.
So back then, it was not like, there was no information. And where should I ask? Now, it's exactly the opposite. Now there's too much information that it confuses you.
So just as I was naive, and that can work for you or against you, it's the same thing now. We're living in the informational age, right?
Yes.
And at the time when I first started,
or disinformation.
Well, so here's the problem: is that can work for you in the sense that you have access to so much more. Yes. And I never had access to as much as is available now.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I relied on that is still applicable today is I relied on the expertise of the people that had been doing it. And that was my saving grace.
Yeah.
So when I first entered the US market, I had tried to figure things out on my own. And then luckily, the gentleman that introduced me to the American market in which I started investing, he was a seasoned investor. So I was able to piggyback off of his knowledge. And then off of his knowledge came an entire team of people that I was able to rely on. And if it wasn't for that, who knows? Who knows? I might have been taking the bus back to Canada.
Yeah.
So I would say, but what is applicable today is, for as much as we evolve, the same mistakes are made.
Yes.
And the number one mistake is coming into a foreign market, not realizing that it's very different from where you come from. Every country has their own rules, their own regulations. And yes, information is so much more accessible, but you want to work with people that have done it, that have gone into the trenches, that have gone to war. Not just information that you read online, and now the evolution of AI, right? Mm-hmm. Now you're inundated with this information. But here's the one thing that won't go away. The people that have been doing it, the experts that have been living, breathing, and doing this, you still want to attach yourself to those people. Mm-hmm. There's nothing better. There is no AI that compares to someone that has been doing it for decades.
The feeling.
Absolutely.
Yep, that's different.
So I would say, that's probably the biggest mistake that people make is not seeking the expertise or attaching them to them, to people like you and I you coming from Mexico, me coming from Canada, and we both, as foreign nationals, we kind of meet in the middle. But we have that expertise that we bring to the table. And yeah, I was blessed that expertise was there for me, even though I had to figure some things out on my own. I think the people that attach themselves to the things that we do, they have an advantage. No question, they have an advantage.
So, in my opinion, I think business culture is very different. And as you said, I like
that point.
Even if
it's true,
as you said, I speak English because I'm from Canada. But once you cross the border, the business culture is different. So when I talk to Mexican business owners or Latin American business owners, I always tell them, you need to speak English, but I'm not talking about the language. I'm speaking about the business language, the culture. You have to understand how it works, because things that made you successful in Mexico are not going to make you successful in the US.
That's a very good point.
So, and the problem is that a lot of investors or a lot of business owners, I think, become arrogant because I'm already successful. How come do you think I need your expertise? Well, just because I made so many mistakes in the US and I have an experience in the US that you don't have. That's why you need something like us, And so translating the business culture, I think, is very important. So, and I remember I speak a lot about that in my first book. If anybody wants to read it, it's free. You can text me and I send you the link. But in my book, I speak about angels that I had in my life. And the angels were a guy that explained me how the US works in terms of trade, for example, how to build a business plan in order to present a commercial offer to a customer is very different than Mexico. So he explained me a lot of those things. And then I found an immigration lawyer, because we made mistakes on that regard. Because we have no clue that you can get a visa or do this and the other. Now, just speaking to Tomas so many times that, man, we feel like we are immigration lawyers already,
So
but 20 years ago, I was even afraid of talking to an immigration lawyer. I thought he was going to deport me or something, because you get scared of asking those kind of questions. So I found an immigration lawyer that became one of my angels. And then I have this other guy that also helped me with some other things. But what I want to say is that without noticing, I was getting allies to help me get into the US with my products, with my services, with my business. And they helped me grow it. And they give me so much of experience that I didn't have. So they transfer me that knowledge. And man, it really saves you millions of dollars.